Hi, I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield, and thank you for joining me on my program Spotlight. And today I have two individuals from Red Cross. Thank you for joining me. And Wendy Savage to my right, and then in front of me here I got Kathy Miller-Teme, and she is a disaster action team volunteer. But before we get right into that, I want them to introduce themselves a little bit more and where they're located, and we'll start with Wendy and then go to Kathy.
Hi, well, thank you for having us today. We appreciate being here. So I'm Wendy Savage. I am the chapter executive for the North Central chapter of Wisconsin. So I cover 17 counties from Wood Clark on up to Iron County, and we have reciprocity with the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I go from Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, 17 counties. So I travel a lot. I am the public face of the American Red Cross, your first contact.
All right. Well, we'll get to learn more about what Red Cross is and what it's all about and what your position does, and as well as others. Let's talk to one of our volunteers. I'll have you introduce yourself a little bit about what you do as well.
I'm Kathy Miller-Teme, and I'm from Medford, Wisconsin, in Taylor County. I signed up just over a year ago to be a volunteer because they had free smoke detector installations, and I said, well, you don't have to come to my house, I can do it. No, you can't, because we need to be sure it's done properly. And I said, oh, well, who can do that? Well, we don't have anybody in Taylor County, so I signed up.
Great.
And we've installed 60.
That's a lot. 60 people that didn't have them.
We're still going.
Yes, great. All right. Well, let's talk about American Red Cross and how long it's been in existence. There's different chapters. You cover, again, the northern region, you were saying. Tell me about what the American Red Cross is and what it does, and then kind of localize it for me.
Well, the Red Cross organization is a worldwide organization. So we have the American Red Cross here. We are a signer of the Geneva Convention. So we are a humanitarian organization, one of the largest in the world. And here in Wisconsin, we have 5 chapters, and all of us cover, 12 to 17 counties based on population. So our primary mission is to alleviate human suffering in the face of disaster. And we do that through the power of volunteers and through our financial donors. So obviously, man-made disasters and weather disasters, we take care of the military, we're collecting blood, and we train people how to be safe in their homes and how to do CPR and first aid. So we have a very large mission, and we do most of it through the power of our volunteers. We really couldn't afford to hire enough people to get that amount of work done. So we have people like Kathy here that help us, that are well-rooted in their communities, understand their communities, and can help us form partnerships and get work done.
Okay. Well, that helps a lot to understand a little bit about what the Red Cross does. Now, how are they funded? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Is it by donations? Is it grants?
It's primarily by donations. We do apply for grants. We typically don't apply for government grants, although we do have some government funds that help us with our armed forces mission. But it is primarily through individual contributions, people in the community supporting our organization.
Okay, and you earlier talked about chapters. And the state of Wisconsin, can you tell me how many there might be, or approximately how that works? And then you're broken up into like districts or countywide, you said earlier?
Right, so we have 5 chapters. We have the chapter in Wausau. We have a chapter headquartered in Altoona, which is very close to Eau Claire. One in the state capital in Madison, our largest one in Milwaukee. And then we have one located in Green Bay. So we are a statewide region. We all work together. We share resources. We do projects together. But we all have individual counties where we're responsible for certain things to get done. Those are our individual focus areas. But we're all working on the same things.
Okay. And again, you're the public face,
yes.
You originally said. So tell me a little bit about how that works. Are you like the communications to the disaster victims, or the media, or both? How does that work?
Well, primarily in a disaster role, my primary function would be working with elected officials to let them know this is how we're responding, this is what we're doing, and have that communication back and forth in case they should hear something that's fallen through the cracks, some need that we don't know about, that they can communicate that with me directly, and I can communicate that to the job director. During a large emergency, our disaster staff are trained to handle that. They have a very specific response hierarchy that they use. I may do communications. Our communications person is based in Milwaukee, so I may fill in for that. I will probably fill in any position that's needed, including pushing a broom if I need to.
Okay.
So it's teamwork.
Jack of all trades.
Let's talk about some of those disasters that happen and what qualifies for a disaster. And then we can also touch base on, after that, about what disasters you maybe recently been involved with, the Red Cross, or big ones that have happened in the past 10 years. Then after that, I think it's a good segue. We can talk into Kathy a little bit about volunteers, because that's part of it. So we'll see if we can get a little information on what qualifies for a disaster and what isn't.
Well, our largest disaster response is home fires. So when someone is displaced, they have a fire in their home and they're displaced, we have partnerships with the local fire departments, and they call us and then they say, here's a fire here, and we send someone out to the scene within 2 hours. So it could be in the middle of the night, could be whenever, and it's very typical to find a person just standing on the corner watching your house going, what's going on, because who has experience with that? We just don't have experience with that in our normal lives. So that Red Cross person comes to the scene, talks with that person, and then tries to find out what are their emergency needs, and then we try to take care of those. And then we will follow up in a few days, and then we'll try to make other referrals for long-term services, things that are available in the community, just to make sure they're okay. After that, it's natural disasters. It could be flooding. It could be a really huge rainstorm that causes flooding, power outages, snowstorms, could be hazmat. There's a number of things that can happen.
We had that big storm in the summer. Was that was that part of your?
That was part of it. So when people are without electricity, you could have health needs where you need to have electricity or you need to have cooling. We all need to have water. So if those people were in remote areas, they had wells, and of course their wells were not working, so you have bacteria and you need water. So emergency management would call us, and we would go in and start to provide those kinds of things, water and food, and we provided shovels and rakes and tarps and work gloves and protective things for their eyes, because people are out there picking up debris so that they're not, continually injured. And we put together what we call a multi-agency resource center and tried to pull in all the resources that were available that could be given to people, and then people would have a one-stop shop. And then it also helps us identify what needs are unmet and how could we do that. So we work in partnership with local agencies.
And that's really how you're notified, but you say the fire department would be, if a fire was to happen, would be your, now who do they call? It's not you directly, right?
No, we have a 24/365 dispatch center, so they call 800 number, and there's a volunteer that sits there. And by proximity, whatever they're closest, they have a list of people, and they may call Kathy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's talk about volunteers. You can kind of mention, volunteers are a very important part, right?
Absolutely.
And without them, you probably wouldn't.
We wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to.
All right. Well, we want to talk to Kathy. We have a volunteer here right in front of me, and I kind of want to know from your perspective, and tell me a little bit first about what you do. You had brought also a fire
smoke
protector.
detector.
Smoke detector. I'm thinking fire protector. Smoke protector. I wish we had fire protectors.
I wish we did.
Yeah, so Kathy, as a volunteer, and you said you started a year ago, tell me a little bit about the importance of what you do and what volunteers do, and then we'll talk about this other piece that you are doing in Taylor County, is that right?
Well, because we cover 17 counties and we don't have a lot of manpower in that direction, I've worked in Clark County as well as Price County, which is north of Taylor. But so most of my focus when I signed up was the home fire campaign, and one of them is to help alert homeowners when there is danger with a fire in the house, and that's with the smoke detector installations. So we've got these 10-year batteries. You don't have to change batteries every time shift anymore. It's good to go. And that's been the people that are elderly and don't like getting on ladders to get to the battery, it's been a godsend to them. And then a number of obviously old ones that need to be replaced because the detector system after about 10 years isn't as sensitive as it should be. So we replace those. And then in addition to the detector installation, we go through a home fire safety checklist. So what we really want to do is avoid the need for a smoke detector in the first place. And one of the biggest places that are involved with home fires is in the kitchen. So I'll go through 5 different important points of how we can prevent fires from starting in the first place. And then the other thing that's also equally important is if you've got a family that's together and they're out of the house, you want to have a meeting point. Because if you don't know if your kids or your husband or your grandma is out of the house, if you've got a meeting point, that's going to be essential to not having firemen going in the house looking for people that may already be out, but not in the same location for meeting point.
Yeah, it's really important to have this escape plan.
Yeah.
I know they practice it in October a lot, Fire Prevention Month.
Mm-hmm.
But while we have these home safety, this checklist, which is about 6 things, I'm just going to have you mention what they are. Just so people are curious what we were talking about here.
Yeah.
The first one's cooking safety. I'll let you kind of go down there just so people have a little better understanding of what we're saying here for the simple things. But sometimes it's not that simple.
Yeah, it's really simple when you hear it, but you think, geez, I should be thinking more about this. And one of them is keeping an eye on what you have on the stovetop. Keep an eye on what you fry is the terminology we use because it's a nice mnemonic for rhyming. But one of the home fires I was at wasn't from something on top of the stove. It was a pizza in the oven, and fell asleep and didn't hear the buzzer, and flames were coming through the top of the stove. And the victim escaped the house with his pants and his cell phone. But it's so important
Yeah.
when you actually see those kinds of things being the demise of your home. Another one is in the bedroom, never smoking in bed, because that's another source of issues that can be so easily prevented if you're just not smoking where you are likely to fall asleep. Recliners, probably another place. Mm-hmm. And then matches, keeping them away so kids don't know where they are, and if they have an idea, they're locked so they can't get to them and play with them and start fires inside or outside the house. And then space heaters, especially in the winter, if you've got plug-in space heaters, they're really great for keeping your toes and hands warm, but you want to have them plugged in directly into an outlet, not using extension cords, things that you're walking over that can then wear them down and be a result of fire hazards. And then having smoke detectors in the house to help alert you, especially when it's a nighttime sleeping thing.
Now, you had brought these, and you just mentioned smoke detectors. Is this something that is free or they can get from you guys?
People don't believe us. Are you sure there's no cost? There is no cost. We will install up to 3 in a house. And if you've got some that are functional, we'll let you know. If we've got batteries that need to be replaced, oftentimes we can do that as well. But these are nice because you don't have to replace the battery. We put a date on the smoke detector, so you know in 10 years, here's the date, this is when it's gone. So you don't replace the battery, you replace the whole unit.
And these are available for people here in Wood County as well then?
Anybody through
Anyone in the whole United States.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
But it's through the Red Cross, correct?
Yes,
I know
right.
the fire department does some of this too, but
We do have some partnerships with our local fire departments. If they're doing it, they can add to it. They're out in the field, they're helping people, and they may be just a little bit closer to that situation than we are. So if they're willing, we supply alarms to them. They just have to fill out the paperwork because we do track them. We do know we've saved over 600 lives across the nation where we know we have installed smoke alarms and later there has been a fire and people have escaped successfully. Every day, 8 people die in a home fire, and we want to reduce those numbers.
Wow. And that's in the United States.
In the United States, yeah.
8 people, wow.
8 people every day.
So is there a phone number if people want to call and don't have means of internet? Or should they call their local fire department?
They can
too?
call their local fire department. I believe they're
Okay.
working with the Marshfield Fire
Yep.
Department. They can call them, and if the fire department doesn't have them, they can call us, and we can arrange that partnership. It's
Okay.
not a problem.
All right. And they can go to redcross.org as well. There's a website
They should
for
go
that?
to, if they have a web access, they should go to smokealarm.org, and they can put in their name and their phone number, and that will come to us, and then we'll call them up and make an appointment.
Okay. Well, easy as that. And
Yes. Try to make it easy.
try to make it easy. And that's one of those are available for any homeowner. Again, these are single devices, right? So they don't hook to other ones like
No,
the other
they're
ones.
single,
But they are
They're not hardwired.
not hardwired. Okay.
Another interesting point I want to bring up is several of the places that we were installing, you hit the button so they know what it sounds like. And I had 2 clients that said, I won't hear that at night because I take my hearing aids out.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, geez, my dad, he always took his hearing aids out at night. He wouldn't have heard that alarm. They have a bed shaker alarm that I helped install one a couple weeks ago for one of the people that said, my wife won't hear that. And we were testing the alarms in the house. And and she was in the bedroom sleeping, and when I called to say, hey, we're coming for the bed shaker alarm to install that one, she says, well, my husband told me you were here, but I never heard a thing. And I went, wait a minute, we put in 3 smoke alarms and we buzzed that thing 3 different times from the 3 different alarms. She never heard them. So these bed shaker alarms, to me, I thought were a vital thing for people that are hard of hearing that
Wow.
can't hear these obnoxious sounds.
I never knew there existed.
Neither did I, so
There
I'm
is.
just filling you in.
I just need to tell you though, they have to be specially ordered. So
Okay.
if we encounter
Yeah,
one of those
right.
situations,
We don't have 'em on hand.
It will take them a few weeks in order for us
Okay.
to get them, and then we'll go back and they have to be specially installed. But they're necessary.
Yeah,
Very
so,
necessary.
but again, those are free too, right?
Those are all free.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they shake the whole bed. Have you seen it work or?
Well, I could feel it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess that,
That's
you,
what
The bed,
I
the
would-
mattress did not fall off.
yeah, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah.
I guess because we don't wear hearing aids,
Right.
but it makes a big difference.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about. Earlier, I mentioned that there were some large events and that have happened over the years, and unfortunately, that's not good for anybody. But you're there to comfort the homeowner or rental. By rental as well. But when it becomes to like a tornado or a severe storm, how do you accommodate everybody? Is there a central place then? What do you do then?
Well, because we operate as a region and we do have that response hierarchy, we have a system for that. So Red Cross has system on system, backup
Partnerships.
systems. And we have partnerships too, but we work together as a statewide team. So we have some people who are a little more expert than others. Always the local entity where the storm exists, that's who starts the response, and then from there we just add people in throughout the state. If it gets big enough, we go to surrounding states and we ask for additional help, additional volunteers, supplies come. So there's a whole system in place through Red Cross to handle issues like that. Fortunately, we haven't had to do that much in Wisconsin. We're a fairly low, situation, hazard situation. I was at Harvey. It started in Houston and went down to Corpus Christi, and my position there working with elected officials, it's very chaotic. and there's a lot of need, and nothing gets resolved fast enough. So it's communicating and it's pulling in partners. So there's a whole system that people don't see. People may see Kathy at a fire scene or hear about it, but behind the scenes there's a whole support network that supports what Kathy does.
Yeah.
There's fundraising people that take donations to make sure Kathy can go out and not have to worry about that. She's going to give that client whatever they need, within our guidelines, not to have to worry about that. There's logistics experts, there's transportation people, there's communications, there's a whole network. And as we figure out what's happening with those disaster situations, those people get added in. And so I was deployed to Harvey. So what I did, I just drove around and I talked to people. And sometimes they yelled at me. Sometimes,
Right.
they're in distress and they have constituents who need things done, and then that gets communicated back. Those are those loose ends, things that fall through the cracks that we need to know about, because we want to take care of everybody the best we possibly can. And in those chaotic situations with no power, no cell service, maybe your cars are even gone because they're flooded out, how do we get things to people, and where are those people?
Now, what do people need to look out for? They're not calling them because they're in distress.
Right.
So do you approach, say a local fire, do you approach that? How do people know it's you? And is it a truck? What's arrives, I should say?
Kathy's going to arrive. She might have her T-shirt on, but
I've
we
got a
have these
really huge, ugly vest
vests.
that nobody could miss
wouldn't want
with
to wear it if you had
reflective
to.
tape.
It's reflective, and she has an official ID badge, and it says American Red Cross. Everything she has is going to say American Red Cross on it.
And there's a
so that
sticker
she's
on the
official.
vehicle, so when I'm coming to a home fire, the firemen know, okay, this is somebody who's here for assistance.
That's the great thing about having your neighbors or helping your neighbors. They're going to know. The fire department and the sheriff is going to know that Kathy is a Red Cross volunteer. She's okay to go through. That's the great thing about having local volunteers. If I showed up, you don't know me. I live somewhere else. So the great thing is to have those local volunteers, and that's what we're always looking for.
Yeah.
So you're looking for volunteers.
Always.
Any of our viewers here that might be interested, what should they do if they? Hey, I think I'd like to volunteer. Who do they call you again, or you, or
Well,
where do they go?
we have an online system because we are a national organization, and we try to do things in a unified way so that everyone is treated the same. So we have an online system. So you go to redcross.org and you look at how can I help, how can I volunteer, and there's some general information about the kinds of jobs that we have, and there are a huge variety of jobs that people can do, particularly if they want to deploy nationally. There's
And internationally.
And internationally
Yeah.
now. Some people are, going to Puerto Rico, getting ready to go. So we have accounting people, and because we're handing money to clients, so we have an accounting system, and we have communications, and we have people who like to work with volunteers or
And social
HR.
media people.
Social media,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So it's the whole gamut.
Well, that's quite a bit of people that are involved in this. And do you have? I bet just in Wisconsin, you have hundreds of volunteers.
Thousands of
thousands.
Yeah. So we always need more.
So yeah, definitely. So people
Especially in northern Wisconsin.
Yes. But again, you cover how many counties again?
17
counties, and that's quite a bit to cover.
Yeah.
But you're working a lot with the disaster management people like Steve Cruiser out of Wood County, or even
Not me personally, but the disaster person.
Okay.
They network with the emergency manager, and then I would network more with the mayor or the elected officials or the sheriff. So that's how we kind of divide that.
Okay. So you hope these don't happen,
Right.
but they do.
They do.
And earlier we were talking about how are you funded? You take donations.
Yes.
That's really how it works. So
That's how it
so do you have campaigns on TV, or how do people know when your fundraising takes place, or is that all the time?
It's all the time. It's all the time. If you go to the website, you probably will be prompted there to consider a donation. But we have a lot of large corporate donors. For instance, we have 2 what we call signature events for Sound the Alarm in 2 very in metropolitan areas. So I'm working on the one in Milwaukee. So the Milwaukee Brewers are a sponsor for that. So they give financial contributions for that.
Oh, good to hear.
There, and Harley Davidson is another one. There are quite a list, and there are quite a list of corporations on a national basis that support the American Red Cross. So we're very fortunate when it comes to that, and when it comes to a large disaster like Harvey, that's all separate from what we do on a daily basis, and people are very willing to give to that. We're just very lucky that way. It is a lot of hard work, but people do tend to give. We are, a trusted entity.
And the timeliness with taxes coming up. If you look on the Wisconsin tax return, they have a list of charitable organizations that you can donate to with some of your refund, and the American Red Cross is one of those.
Is there, so they give you information back regarding your donation, just like a lot of those places.
And, Kathy donates her time and her talent. People donate their money, and then we ask people to donate their blood.
Oh,
that's
that,
right.
yeah.
That is critical. Right now, this is a critical time when you have weather events, cold weather, you have flu season. People are just coming back from, a holiday season and their schedule is off. So we really want people to donate blood. So there are regular drives here at the Eagles Club. They do very well, but we can always use more blood. Always.
Okay, so they can, again, they can turn to this channel as well for blood drives. We list those on our guide, as well as you get them out to the local media.
Right.
They can look there for those. But that is really very important, and really all blood types yet are very important, right?
All blood types are very important, but particularly O, type O.
Type O.
That's the universal donor, but all blood types are needed. You just never know. I'm B positive, and sometimes they'll say, we really need your B positive blood. I don't always expect that, but it's like, okay, I need to. In fact, I probably will go down and donate today.
Oh, okay. And
There's
can
a
you do
drive
that
here.
anywhere here in town, just without a drive happening?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's a very regulated industry, so
Okay.
there's very, health and safety concerns
Right.
there. So.
Okay. We only have a few minutes left. I know. Red Cross. Do they do other things like I know they have fire safety. Do they provide any like CPR training?
We do.
I thought
yeah.
so.
We are a provider of CPR, first aid, citizen CPR, which is hands only.
Okay.
We also
Lifeguard.
and lifeguard training
right.
as well. But we also support our service to armed forces, the active duty and veterans and their families. So that is originally how the Red Cross started. That was its first service, and then it moved on to disaster and the other issues that we have today. But we're over 130 years old. We're still learning, we're still evolving, and we're still excited about what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a bit. Anything last that you want to say, Kathy, about what you do as a volunteer? You enjoy it, I know, and helping others.
I think it is something that I found very fulfilling is when you've got people that you don't even know that are facing a house fire, and you're there with help and a shoulder and a warm blanket. There's no greater gratification than when you can be part of the picture that's going to bring some help and a plan for what the future's going to hold.
It's hard, and you see that. It's not easy, and it helps because those people are just standing there, like you said earlier, looking at their home within 2 hours or so, right?
Right.
You could be on.
We set up a meeting spot, and usually we can't meet at their house
Okay, so
because
it's not
we don't have a house.
right. So you kind of want to maybe even off-site, but
It's
usually
usually, yeah.
somebody with the officials, the firefighters, or the police help coordinate that with the individuals. I'm sure.
They alert the dispatcher, and the dispatcher calls. If it's my neck of the woods, they'll call me or Dan if it's Wausau.
Oh, you've been up in the middle of the night?
The fires have occurred in the middle of the night. One was a house explosion, and we didn't, she was in her son's home, so we didn't have to meet with her within 2 hours of the explosion, but we coordinate with the woman or the person who's lost the home, and then we get help.
Yeah.
usually within 24 hours, we're meeting them face to face.
Yeah.
I have, and I don't. My role has changed. I don't respond anymore, but I have in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And yeah, there it's a friendly face, and it's a shoulder to cry on, and just someone to talk to, and we listen, and then try to move them forward.
But it definitely is harder when you say, like, you go down to hurricane relief. It's so
Devastation
big.
It's
everywhere.
so massive.
You don't know-
It's hard to even comprehend.
Especially now with Puerto Rico, like you said.
Yes.
Some anybody local going down in this area aware of yet?
I don't know from the state of Wisconsin. I do know there's a Upper Peninsula person who's been asked, and he's making his arrangements. So
Yeah, without any water there, could be over a year.
Yeah.
That is really devastating. Well, thank you so much. Anything last, Wendy, that you wanted to mention that I didn't cover?
just would say, anyone who wants to volunteer, please check up our website. Take a look. I'm sure there's something out there that would help you feel satisfied.
Join other people in the effort to help your neighbor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, you both, for coming by on my program Spotlight. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. And if any of our viewers want any information, feel free to give me a call, 715-486-2070. Again, 486-2070. I probably could find that information from one of these individuals. Otherwise, again, you can go to, is it redcross.org? And or local officials will let you get you in. Call a local fire department, not 911, the regular number I don't have,
Non-emergency.
non-emergency, and I'm sure that they can help you with something like this as well, and get you coordinated to where to go. But again, redcross.org. If you have access to the website, should have all that information on there. All right. Well, we'll leave you guys with that on my program Spotlight. I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director for the City of Marshfield.